Welcome back to the Macro Golf Podcast. It's Joe here, and I am joined again by Sam and Jack. Boys, hello, how are we doing?
All good.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
They sound super enthusiastic. I don't know why. It's just unusual about it. We're going to have some fun. No idea. It's been a long day, I think. You think you should gather three coaches together in the evening and you're going to have some tired faces. So I think that's probably why we had that response just now. Yeah, welcome back. So I think this is episode number 5 of the new series, I believe. 4 or 5, I believe it's 5. And today we're going to deep dive into a topic that we always spend time talking about as the three of us, and we want to expand this out to you guys listen to this. And it's one of the concepts that we kind of discussed in detail before starting the business in its new form, and it's something that we've been working with clients since then on, and we really feel like we've learned a lot in our own processes, learned a lot from working with these clients, and now feel like we can speak in a little bit more detail to you guys today in what we really mean with this concept. And what I'm talking about here is building your golfing blueprint, your personalized blueprint for golf performance. And we're going to talk tonight in terms of technique, in terms of skill, in terms of golf. We're going to talk in terms of fitness, power production, mobility, and we're also going to talk about the mental side as well, which we're starting to see now as having a more and more important impact on that personal blueprint. So it will definitely be me firing some questions over to Sam, firing some questions over to Jack in terms of covering some of this fitness, mental and skill side. And hopefully by the end of this podcast, you're going to have a better understanding of what we mean by the term blueprint and give you some ideas on how you can start thinking about your own personal blueprint and starting to spot some of these tendencies in your own game. So lots to get through. We'll try and be nice and efficient as we always try and be, but I'm just going to fire this question over to both of these lads and let's see what we come up with. And I just want, let's say Sam first as a fitness expert and as a golfer, as someone who's going through this themselves. How would you define a golfing blueprint?
So, I have always thought about this in terms of fitness only with clients. In years before I was working with golfers, I would love to see how clients are moving, what movement patterns typically suit them, what movement patterns they typically like. So, for example, if we're just onto fitness only, just for now, I would look at probably two key movements, either a squat or a hinge, so like a deadlift essentially. And typically, most clients prefer one of those. Taking that, then working with golfers, I would love clients to, yes, be masters at both of those movement patterns, but they take absolutely years and years and years to master. And so typically we need one exercise that they can get really efficient, either quick or strong, hopefully both of them pushing through the floor. Is that going to be a squat? Is that going to be a hinge? Let's stick with one, really master that, and that will build their plan around that one movement pattern essentially. In terms of the golf, it's been a lot more beneficial for me working alongside Jack with clients to say, right, this is the client, he has X mobility, he produces force, really, let's say, really well vertically, doesn't do much horizontal stuff, so let's build a plan around that, and let's maybe push the strengths, start working on the weaknesses to make him a better overall player. That's made our coaching, I think, so much, one, more enjoyable for the clients, but also so much more efficient and much better service, I would say. So it's been fascinating working with clients, and then also just amongst Jack, for myself, to discover my blueprint with my swing to allow just confidence, I would say. So just to be like, right, this is what I do well, let me just stick to this, let me not tinker all of the time, try and build out the blueprint, solidify that as much as possible, bang, there you go, now just go, trust, and just focus on the performance side of things. So yeah, it's something we've developed over probably years and years all individually, and now we're finally kind of coining the term together and putting it as part of this service and how we all work together. I'd say so.
Yeah, again, from someone with fitness background predominantly, it's just weird how people were just strong in certain moves and weak in other moves. You'd have people who were quite naturally stable. Some people just naturally had terrible balance. They just couldn't move. And no matter what you did, that was always generally their weaker spot, and they always had that general weaker, like stronger spot. Like for me, I know that always I was generally way more strong pushing. Like pushing movements were always my strongest, especially shoulder pressing was definitely my strongest. And no matter what training I did, that just remained my strength. Like it was always just a little bit ahead of everything else. And I think what we're trying to identify here is that we have these natural built-in strengths, weaknesses, tendencies, and we talk, fitness is easier to say strengths and weaknesses because they literally are. But as you said there, when we take this over to golf, which we're going to talk now with Jack, it's super fascinating to see how these things transfer over. And I do believe they come originally from physical or skill-based elements. But it's pretty cool when you then see this put into a game where there is so much emphasis on technique and skill, and so much of a kind of textbook idea of how things should be done. It then becomes very interesting when we start exploring this idea of people having their own way of doing things, which I think we'll get into. So I suppose the same question to you, Jack, really, in terms of how would you kind of define this idea of a golfing blueprint?
I just think it's it's the best way to define yourself as a golfer, define yourself in terms of fitness itself. It's no guesswork. Takes away a lot of the guesswork. As a coach, I kind of realized even though my knowledge is very high on golf swing, knowledge very high on sort of performance stuff, that gap of not understanding exactly what their body was doing prior to working with you guys, it was missing, and that element was I may have noticed a couple of things, like I don't know, they may have had no rotation in their shoulder, they might not have been able to do certain things, but not running for a full test is basically allowed for certain things to sneak through, and you're going to miss things, and that's just basically means it's more guesswork than correct absolute evidence, right? And that's what we're always looking for as coaches. We're always looking for to make sure we get the perfect program for the client, and that's what this does. It just allows us to give them the absolute perfect treatment they deserve, and it gives yourself as a coach a lot more confidence in what you're doing, right? It gives yourself a lot more you just love what you're doing, and it's right, it's correct, and you can just work through it with every single player. You can it's not like where there's a system that you got these golf swing systems. Won't name any, but you can think of some, and they work for certain players who that is designed for. So if it's a swing which is designed for a very powerful player who moves massively laterally, and then you put them in that bracket, that's going to be fantastic. They're going to have a great swing, and it's going to probably improve them. But you put 65-year-old with a sore hip, and they don't move laterally well at all, and they don't produce any force in that area, and you try to get them in that move, that is not going to work, right? It's gonna. So you have to build the blueprint around the player specifically, and it's not only age specific stuff. Like we've discovered that that obviously you got younger people who produce so much force in certain areas, but they produce literally very minimal in other areas. So you have to try to utilize the force they do produce, and then in turn you have to try to improve those forces through training plans with yourselves, and try to make it as complete a model as we can. But the blueprint is always around making the golfer better, and that's what we do with our training plans. In the end of it, always trying to work it all together.
Well, you've just wiped out like 3 or 4 of my questions, so I'll skip.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. I'm gonna jump on one thing you said there and actually make it a little bit personal to me. So let's actually jump, because I said to Sam there that I generate a lot of power from pushing motions, and my half has always been like my dominant force. So it's interesting when you were talking through there, because I know for me that the way that I produce power is very upper body dominant. And if you were to get me to do something, I would definitely use my upper body and core essentially to create a lot of force, especially rotational force. I would do that a lot from my upper half. And then that's something we see in my golf swing, right? We see that when I try and swing harder, or when I try and push things harder, or when things get a little bit out of control for me, the motion starts with an aggressive pull from the upper half. That's the way that I generate power, and that's my idea of creating speed. So as someone with that idea, my blueprint is built around a process that limits my tendency to yank hard from the top of the golf swing and pull over the top, right? Like that's we've kind of developed that blueprint around not necessarily restriction, but what could be deemed as a strength that I mentioned earlier in terms of fitness. It suddenly becomes a not necessarily a weakness, but it becomes a potential detriment to a desired move in the golf swing if my way of producing force is not the most efficient way of producing force in a golf swing.
Yeah, all it is just something we manage, right? That's what I would kind of call it. Like, it's not a complete problem. It's not, it's not causing you. That's not the reason for all of your issues. It's just something we need to manage, keep on top of. Managing the blueprint, we like to call it, and that is literally what that is. And for you, that's something we've pretty much looked at for what? I mean, that's been
years.
Probably, been a while, right?
3 years, 4 years.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, like I still manage the same blueprint from when I was probably 18, without even realizing it. And then I go too far. I didn't realize because wasn't talking blueprint back then, but I went a long way away from blueprint. I come back a bit closer, play some good golf, and then I go away from the blueprint again, play some bad golf, come back to it by accident, and then go back away from it. Like it's just a constant cycle, and that's why you find this really, really inconsistent golf, right? I mean, golf's never truly consistent because it's that hard a game, but like your move just completely changes all the time, and it's not suited for you. And then once you learn exactly what you're supposed to be doing, how you can control it, what you can do in the gym to control it, what you can do on the range to control it, it makes such a massive difference. And that's what we aim to do with every single player we teach, right?
For sure. I mean, the other question I had, which is, I mean, you guys have both covered both of them, and I think why is it important and what factors are there, I think have been covered nicely there. But Sam mentioned it a little bit there in terms of how he does it on the fitness side. And I wanted to expand on that a little bit, but I'll ask you first, Jack, how do we find it? Because in fitness, we've got, this time we can do movement tests, we can do movement assessments, we can do movement screens, we can get clients to do certain exercises, and from our experience we can see where they're potentially moving better or what their tendencies are. A great example is you get someone to do some kind of deadlift or some kind of squat and you'll instantly see that maybe they want to hinge more than they want to squat. Like you can see this stuff, right? How do you find that with golf? Because I feel like there's a lot more chaos going on in golf. We're much more in a controlled environment when we're taking people through exercises in a gym base. There's less consequence to them, that they're not reacting so much to an external result. How the hell do we find this in a golfing sense? Because I do not envy you sometimes when you have to try and, because people have got their own belief systems as well they're trying to fight through, right? So they're always believing that they believe that this is the right way for them to do things. We're constantly fighting against that. So how do you go through the process of, in terms of the golf swing, how do you find that thing? And do you ever find it fully, or is it always a bit of a journey?
It's a great question. So I mean, it kind of covers golf coaching in general. What is golf coaching and what it does? But like, a big thing of it is just having a massive knowledge of what causes what does what, why do things happen. So let's start there. Like, first of all, we need to know what's happening. So there's no good just looking at a move. Like I've never believed in just looking at a move, because if we don't know what that move's causing, it's impossible to dictate what to do with the move, right? So we always start with ball flight. We go ball flight first, come back, go strike first, come back. And then then we start to. So I'll always use what you guys say to me. So if you tell me something, I can then start to process that in my brain. And then I'll start to look to see at different points in the move what causes the issue in quotation marks, and then look at the products that has caused that. So there's usually something which has caused that earlier on in the chain of events. So in the kinetic sequencing, there's always something that's happening, usually before what people think is the problem. So early extension is just the number one biggest problem for golfers, and it's the thing that they get identified, right? So a lot of coaches will get to the point and they can identify the point where there's an early extension going in somewhere. But then then it becomes the knowledge of why has the early extension come in, right? And it's really trying to identify exactly why it's come in. It's definitely not trying to get rid of the early extension for the sake of getting rid of early extension. If that's any advice, if that resonates with someone listening, listen to that, because that is probably the worst thing you'll ever do for your golf game. Is if you have early extension and you're just trying to push your hips back in order to get rid of it, you will actually hit the ball way worse, and long term that is not going to be a good solution at all. Again, that's one of those quick rabbit hole things where you try to sort it there and then, when actually there's a potential. Again, this is a blueprint, and there's you would need the player to specifically know that early extension is not your issue, and you can keep your early extension, and you can time it, and you can play with a slightly extended shaft. That's not an issue, right? So completely depends on the person. So even these swing faults, which people like to say, they might necessarily not be your swing fault, right? If it's not causing an issue, it's not a swing fault. It's just a characteristic in the golf swing. So the blue, yeah, sorry. So that really hasn't cleared up how to do it. Yeah. So to be honest with you, it is a process, and you figure things out along the way, and you try to get as quick as an understanding as you can of players. Where they go mentally, where they go physically, what they want to do with the ball flight, and you have to try to work that all in with the blueprint, right? So it's a big old process, and it's one you just have to work hard together with the player. It's not a coach's opinion, it's not a player's opinion, it's a team thing. So yeah, definitely don't try and do it yourself, in my opinion.
No. My analogy I like to use more in the fitness side when I'm building out training programs is like it's very similar to getting a suit tailored for you. You're never going to get it right first time. It's going to take tweaking here, tweaking there. Right, we've got to let some out there. And like I feel like, especially working with you for my game, Jack, it's very much been like that. It's like, right, we're going to try this. Right, if that doesn't work, fine, we can try something else. Right, that works, perfect. Let's keep that. Now let's try this, and then that has a knock-on effect. And it's like you said, it's just a process.
Yeah,
I think it's such a worthwhile process, because otherwise you just go through your golfing journey, and especially if you're trying to get better, just like completely clueless. Like you just see a YouTube video pop up and go, right, now let me try that, and let's try and change that part of my game without any knowledge of like what knock-on effect that will have to everything else.
Sam, I think you made one mistake there, and I think the one mistake was not leaning harder into this analogy, which is just incredible. What an analogy! So, like, you can go as far as to say, like, for a lot of the time, that's people just go and pick up a suit off the shelf and just hope it fits, right? And actually, for sometimes it will. Sometimes it will fit. Like, you might pick up go into the shop and pick up a slim fit, whatever, and it's going to fit great and you look fantastic. Good for you, right? But for most people, it won't. They're going to need some altering. They're going to need some adjustments here. They're going to need some adjustments there. Also, the whole time, they might be gaining weight or losing weight, or gaining muscle or losing muscle. They might be growing. They might be getting taller. And that's never going to be that one that got fit for them 2 years ago. Might now their body's changed. That's no longer the right thing for them, right? They need to adjust. Or they might go in and be like, oh, I want a brown suit. And it's like, well, you look terrible in brown. Stop. Like, use this one. Right? So, like, this is... Oh, what an... Oh, my God. You've just...
That's a really good... I've never heard that. I don't know.
Yeah. Did you make that up? Did you make that up?
Yeah, I use it with clients. I've used it for years with training plans. Especially, like, onboarding new clients. I'll just say, like, we're not going to... Like, this training plan won't be right, first off. Like, because I don't know about you, Joe. Like, yes, we've got, like, the textbooks that will say, right, if you want hypertrophy, pick 12 reps, for example. But, like, I know for myself that, like, most of my good training's at 5 reps. And I feel like for me, 5 is a magic number where I can push my strength, I can gain some muscle, but also my focus, my energy is so much better at around those sort of rep ranges. I have clients that love 20 reps, for example. I have clients that like 1 rep, like 3 reps. And especially if you're new to training, it's such a process in going through and figuring out, right, Sam, I loved workout 1 that we did, but actually workout 2, I felt super tired for the next couple of days. So then we've got to discover, why is that? Is it potentially the exercises? Is it the volume? Is it the reps? Is it the sets? Is it the order we've done things like? And it's just a constant tweaking, right? We've changed this, we'll try and keep that the same until we try to get the recipe that works. And then something will happen and be like, right, well, actually, now I'm strong enough, now let's get powerful. That's fine, we've got to switch it all up. And it's just, that's what I find so much more fascinating about training golfers. That it's so much more fluid than just let's just grow muscle.
Yeah. I think the other thing with that as well is, and that this probably leads us on to the next bit of this quite nicely, is that also maybe what's 100% the right thing for that client, if you manage to test them and identify exactly how many reps they need to be doing, exactly their rest periods, exactly all that stuff, but they might turn around and go, nah, boring, not going to do that. Then it's like, well, then you've got to find another way around, right? So it might not be that 100% is the right thing for them, because if they're not going to commit to it and they're not fully bought in on that,
pointless. It's crap. It's a crap training plan. It could be the perfect written training plan in the world. If it doesn't fit into their lifestyle and they're not going to do it, it's shit. It's pointless.
Exactly. And Jack probably said, you go for the blueprints, going to do this, you're going to do this, whatever. It's like, nah, I want to hit draws.
Yeah, fair play. Let's do that.
Well,
let's do that.
We'll try and work something around that, but it might be that that's just not 100% best for you, right? And I think as coaches, we're always trying to balance this idea of what is 100% perfection, but I think the mental part of this and having a mental commitment to what that move is a huge part of this being a success or not a success. And I think the mentality of the golfer really does play a part in the kind of blueprint that they end up working through, right? And we can talk about that in terms of strategy, we can talk about that in terms of concentration, focus, we can talk about all those things, emotion control, but also their investment in that journey and their belief that that is the right thing for them is a huge part of it. Huge part.
Yeah, defo.
Nice. So I think both of you have been asked this question as well. For people that are wondering if this is worthwhile, it sounds like a lot of work. It sounds like, I'm gonna have to go and trial some stuff. I might have to do this and do that. And what does it feel like once you discover this? So once you do discover what your blueprint is, Sam, for you, once you've discovered what your training blueprint is, for example, now you're getting pretty close to what your golfing blueprint is going to be as well. Jack, for you, where you've played with a blueprint and been close to that blueprint and probably played your best golf around that time, and by the time you've seen clients do that as well, what does it feel like to have that, both kind of mentally and physically? What does it feel like to own your blueprint and be able to really work through that process?
As someone who's played full time and didn't have a blueprint, that's extremely stressful. That's extremely difficult. I didn't know it was coming week to week. Now I definitely feel just more in control. I feel more at ease with my game. I feel I just have a very high understanding of my own personal game. You guys know I don't have a whole lot of time to practice nowadays. So it's just nice to feel like I can still, I still feel like I can go out and semi-compete at a pretty high level without too much training. You give me, obviously I need to, train the micro movements and do a little bit of practice beforehand. But it's not, I don't feel like I have to grind out every single day to keep those micro movements in check. Now it's very much, I just have an understanding of what produces what ball flight I need to see in order to create the move I want to create, maybe what feel I need to feel if something's going wrong, what I need to do beforehand in order to move correctly. All those things just sort of all bed into one, I just basically try to breed that into my players, not let them make the same mistakes I made a fair few years back. And yeah, just make everyone understand and then get to enjoy the beauty of a blueprint, and get to enjoy the happiness that comes with a blueprint. I mean, Joe, you to be fair, you're probably someone who can answer it just as well as I can. You've gone from erratic, didn't really understand what to do, and then now you're in the full blueprint phase. You've gone from literally, God, massively different, massively different. Hunting week in, week out to haven't changed in a year and a half. It's pretty big, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say for me, I would agree with you there in terms of it's way more. I would say I'm way more accepting of bad golf shots. It's where I would explain it. So like, now I've discovered what I need to do, and I understand my move. I kind of no. Very rarely do I hit shots that surprise me.
That's what I was about.
Very
That's
rarely do
true.
I hit a shot. I'm like, what the hell was that? And they
Yeah.
obviously do happen. I actually hit, like, Monday I played and I hit a couple of shots. I was like, what the hell is like that? It didn't seem like I hit those shots.
Yeah.
Where even my bad shots now, they seem like my shots. Like, I can understand why that shot happened.
I'd say that's one of your.
That's quite freeing.
That's one of your
That's
strengths.
very good.
Joe, having played with you a lot, for you to hit a couple of bad shots and you can kind of go straight away, right, I know what caused that now, and then you're pretty good then the next shot to fix that, which
definitely.
I think like most golfers just do not have that ability.
Yeah, but it's because I think I think that is the blueprint.
Yeah,
I think what you just explained it is that, because
yeah.
if I didn't have that, I'd be like, oh God, what's that? Oh, maybe I did this, maybe I did this, what did that? And then you'd try the next, and you'd be trying one of a million things you'd be trying, like, oh, how do I fix that? When I say that, I pretty much just go back to the blueprint. It feels weird to say this, but because it sounds a bit cliche, but it literally is. The reason I hit a poor goal shot at that moment was either because I varied from my blueprint in terms of I did something stupid in terms of my setup was wrong or whatever, or it was just mental error. It's one of those two things. So as long as
all variants, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like
complete variants.
I wouldn't even clarify that as a bad shot. Like if that was just in my pattern, then that's fine. That's just a bad result, probably the thing. But if I was to make a bad swing or to have a really shit shot, like, then I'm thinking, well, I either varied from my blueprint or it was a mental error. So as long as the next time I stand up, I just dial back to that blueprint and make sure I'm mentally present and pick a right target, then that's all I can do, right? So that has been freeing for sure. And it's not that I don't then tinker around with that. Like, then in practice, I'll do some stuff, and this will be like later down in my questions. I'll ask you guys this. There will still be stuff in practice that I'm trying to develop and trying to get better at.
Of course.
And I'm trying to improve, and I'm trying to find little things to get better. But for me, they very rarely drift too far away, and that's why it's nice having Jack on board, because sometimes I do tend to wander a little bit too far away, and it'll just smack me straight back into place.
Yeah,
that's
the job. That's the job. Yeah, what you need.
And I would say that actually, as feedback from a player with a golf coach, I would say that your role for me now is very much just keeping me on track.
100%. It's performance based stuff, and then just keeping you on track, right? Like, we know this thing works. It's just making it better, just making it slowly better, right? And that's if you ever expect to, at your sort of level, to have a 5-shot improvement over a year, like, it's just not going to happen. Like, you're going to get small improvements over the space of 3 years, for example. That's what happens at this level. You can obviously get bigger improvements at higher handicaps and stuff, but being the good golfer that you are, it's definitely a slower process for sure. But it's keeping everything bedded in and just trusting the process, and it's easy to do. I think
it also makes you more susceptible to drift away from the blueprint, because you are more thinking, oh, that's the next thing that's going to solve my problem. Yeah. That's the next thing that's going to get me to this level. That's the next thing that's going to get me to this.
100%.
I suppose the same question to you then, Sam, in terms of how you feel. Yeah, we can talk a little bit of training as well, but in terms of golf, that you're kind of almost there, probably, with that blueprint out, in terms of your understanding, and definitely in terms of knowing what you need to do.
Yes, I'd say the understanding is definitely there, and I think that's been so freeing to learn about. I feel like my understanding now of my golf movements is there, so there's some things now that I'm probably not relying on Jack as much to see or feel when that is going wrong. Whereas before I was absolutely clueless. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, go to the range, not hitting it well. Like you said before, Joe, I'd probably just try 1,000 different things. Probably like potluck, one of them might work. And I go, right, oh, that's it, fixed it, got it.
Mm-hmm.
Take it to the course, not happening at all. Be like, right, back to square one again. And it's just like this endless cycle of like, what is going on? Whereas I think now, like, I've always been in my entire life, like, absolutely everything has to have a routine, has to have a structure, has to be planned out. And I think now, working on my blueprint, I can see the improvements, which then makes you like reinforce into doing the things, that the drills and the practice and everything else. But like, it's kind of mapped out, and I'm kind of like, so much easier then to commit to it. Whereas I think when you're not following a plan, or you're not trying to like work out what your tendencies are and find your blueprint, it's just like chaos, just absolute chaos. And we see it with so many of my clients who are just fitness clients, just like week in, week out, just like tearing their hair apart.
Yeah.
And it just makes everything so much easier to understand. So then, Jack, as a coach, say Joe, for example, now, or other clients, how does them having their blueprint change your job as a coach?
Yeah, sure.
Obviously,
I
a
mean,
hell of a lot less videos.
yeah.
So now that's one thing I
Less
notice all the
notifications
time.
on my phone usually. Yeah.
Yeah. We actually do notice a pattern between that of like the
100. Oh,
clients
mate.
who haven't yet found their blueprint
Defo.
are sending videos 3, 4, 5 times a week, and those that
100%.
have,
Yeah.
one every 2 weeks.
So
Pretty
I
much.
think you almost touched on it there, and it's probably the part that most golf coaches maybe don't get a chance to talk about their clients with. But it's actually some of the stuff that's more important, which is either the mental side of things or the performance side of things, right? Where now, you know, they're not, Joe's obviously not technically perfect or technically sound, but his swing works. So now how can we get probably more like juice out of him focusing on the other bits, right? And it gives you more time to focus on that.
Okay, I'll say one thing before Jack answers that question, because I think it's interesting. I think one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast as well is to give people little insights to this type of stuff. And I had a conversation with a mutual client of mine and Jack's this week, someone who has had a lot of online coaching, a lot of coaching that's based on, you know, you film your swing, you send it over, you get feedback on the swing, you go away, you practice, you film your swing, you send it back, this typical type of thing. And he's had that with a lot of quite well-known skillists, golf coaches. And what I was trying to explain to him, because first of all, he couldn't understand why we do unlimited like videos. He could like, that seemed like a bit crazy in his mind originally. It was like, what do you mean I could just send as many videos as I want? I was like, well, yeah, because eventually you're not going to need to send that many videos, right? That's the idea of what we're trying to get here. So yes, at the start, you send as many videos as you need to send. As soon as we understand what you need to do, you're going to start sending less videos because you're going to know what you need to do. And what I was trying to explain to him was the business around golf coaching in that way is completely incentivized around you needing to send a hell of a lot of videos, right? Because that's how they're going to sell you the biggest package. If you can only send one video a month, it's going to be very, very cheap for their package. If you have to send 3 videos...
You're still there.
Yeah, I'm still here, but Siri decided to jump on my laptop. I was on a really good point there. If you need to suddenly send 3 videos a week because you're getting instant feedback and that's how you're building your golf swing, then you're going to need to be on the most expensive package, right? So I think the idea of the online coaching method that is based only around you filming your golf swing and sending your golf swing and having immediate feedback on that, changing something else, and never actually landing on what the answer is also a fault of the industry, not just a fault of the player. And I feel like now actually with online coaching is even more accessible for you to film your golf swing, send it, get immediate feedback. And I've actually heard stories of people where they've had subscriptions with golf coaches on Skillist or online or wherever, and they've sent a video to the coach, and because they didn't get feedback that night within a couple of hours, they've already sent it to 2 other golf coaches that night on Skillist because they're just desperate to get an answer from that driving range session they've done. And that's the mess we're in. And I think what Jack will get onto now is the fact that actually what we're seeing with these clients now is actually the ones that are finding their route and finding their blueprint, they're sending way less videos because they don't need to.
So
and it's other stuff you can start to work on.
Yeah, and it's an avenue just so many people don't go down in online coaching, which is sad. It's like that is so important, and unfortunately, the online coaching world, like you say, is incentivized to not complete the blueprint. They don't want you to complete the blueprint. Otherwise, you stop paying them. Like that's the
Yeah.
point. Like you don't, because it's so swing based and it's so internally focused. How do I make my move do this? How do they you can't send them a video of like, oh, how was your process card? That's not a video, right? So there's no payment to that. So
Yeah.
they don't want you to get to that stage, and that's the problem with the. It's no ill talk on anyone. It's just that's the way it's designed, and unfortunately, they're trying to make a living, and they understand kind of what avenue to push you down in the online coaching world. So we saw that, and we saw that that wasn't the right place, so we sort of obviously gone down more the unlimited route, and it's absolutely bang on. Like the first couple months, sure, when we're discovering blueprint, there's a lot of videos going on, but once we discover that blueprint and we start talking more mental, we start talking more course management stuff, it's a lot more discussions, right? It's less videos, it's more discussions, it's more
It's more. I was more teaching,
100%.
more understanding rather than just saying like change.
Yeah.
What you notice way more voice notes and way less driving range videos. That's what I see. I see way more people sending voice notes and way less, setting your film up in the driving range and doing that. So, yeah, it's an interesting point.
Yeah, really good.
Sorry to jump in on that, but I thought it was useful.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got one more question, and this is actually probably useful for you both to answer. So once you've discovered that blueprint, how does your practice then change and alter once you've found that? Because some people might say, well, I found a blueprint, what's the point? What's the point in practicing, right? Or why do I need to know now work on that? I'll just go and play all the time and that'll be fine. So what does our practice look like once we've discovered this blueprint? And I assume we know that we're going to still be working on improving even some form of that blueprint. So how does that incorporate into that?
Do you want to answer that in a fitness standpoint, Sam?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's use Joe as an example here. Okay, so Joe's already said he produces a lot of force laterally and rotational. Right, Joe's not the best at using ground force reactions through the floor. So Joe in his training at the moment is pushing that side a lot. That doesn't mean he's shying away from his strengths in his swing. He's just trying to build up these other physical attributes that hopefully will carry over to making him a more complete player, essentially, right? I'm very much the opposite. I'm very good vertically up and down, not so much laterally. So my training isn't so much jumping, for example. It's a lot more trying to rotate, trying to create these other forces. That makes life so much easier as a coach to program for them, because we can either go, right, let's maintain the strengths that we've got, let's push out some of the weaknesses, and hopefully then we can build that back into the swing alongside the coach's help once we've got those increased physical capabilities, for example. Or it might not even be to do with the swing. We might just see some mobility issues that might be for longevity or strength or however. But it's so much easier once we know the blueprint of the golf swing and the movement patterns to just create a program that is going to benefit the client the most, essentially.
I would say as well, that's definitely matched to, if you looked at our training habits over the last 10 years, your training, all the time you've been spending exercising, doing these things, has definitely involved way more explosive, ballistic, powerful work than mine, for sure.
Yeah.
My work has definitely included more strength and bodybuilding training, and therefore my strength for those areas is then matched for what we see, right? So like it might be naturally that we had that from younger than that even, but then just as natural as we are as humans, we're just going to do more of what we're kind of good at. So then you naturally do a little bit more ballistic, a little bit more jump stuff, more whatever, and I do naturally a little bit more strength stuff, a little bit more hypertrophy stuff. So then we've ended up in this position where suddenly we're playing a sport that actually requires both of those things, and then we need to kind of match up what we've left out of our training for the last however many years. So I think there's always going to be these kind of blind spots that we've just not noticed because they've not been that important. But I think what we're doing here is we're identifying what those are. And I don't know if we'll ever flip reverse and change it, but we'll definitely.
No, I don't think you ever should. Like you should almost, like the TPI guys talk about it a lot, like leaning into your superpower. Like your superpower is rotation. Like not like you're trying to get rid of that and go, right, now I just want to produce force through the floor.
Yeah, I've just found a way to manage that for me. And like, for example, drive is obviously going to be the biggest one for that. But like, I just found a way that I have to set up, feel like if the face is super close and just rotate super hard and manage the face that way. I just don't have a lot of release with driver. And actually, Jack showed me this. I was mind blown at this one time. And I used to think, oh, I'm going to generate so much more speed if I can like time this release and get a better release. And Jack was like, he probably doesn't remember this. He was like, oh, just watch this. I just held face angle, did not release it at all. It was like 300 yard carry. And I was like, oh. So we should do that then.
Cool.
He was like, yeah.
Cool, but that was cool.
Yeah. It was pretty swag. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
but it just shows how, like, if I've got a power there of rotating hard, I don't have to necessarily, I can still play good golf without finding all these other things. So it's a great example. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I like that.
So let's finish off then, Jack, with golf then.
I mean, yeah, that's basically creating the whole practice plan. That's what everyone, aims to do, aims to practice to get better. The only difference is this will work, right? You won't just practice for the sake of practicing. You're not just going to hit balls and, hunt for a feel from shot to shot. You're going to have something to work on, embed a feel, understand the shot pattern of that feel. So for example, if you've got something you're working on, we've understood in the blueprint, you're going to have to learn the blueprint. You're going to have to learn the shot pattern. You're going to have to learn what shot shape suits that the most. You're going to have to learn all of these things. And that comes through practice and understanding and doing performance drills and performance testing and really testing the blueprint. That's one of the keys as well, right? You can't just have the blueprint and not put it under any pressure, because at the end of the day, thoughts are going to creep in your head. You have to be able to, that's part of the blueprint as well, right? Mental thoughts. How do you control them? Because everyone has different ways of controlling them, and you have to practice that stuff too. So yeah, you've got your sort of your drills you might do to maintain something. You've got your performance side of things you might do to train the actual correlation between that and golf course. And it's just one long training plan which you sort of change and throughout the season at different points when you may be playing a bit more golf and you may want to improve the scoring side of it a little bit more. You may change up the training plan at that point, but in the winter you may want to refine the blueprint a little bit, and so it kind of moves about throughout the year and throughout the season. But the main thing is we have a core. We have a whole core, and we have a full understanding of exactly what's going on in the move and the whole blueprint itself. And yeah, you just sort of work off that basically. Yeah.
Last question on that: where does that go in terms of chipping? Where does that go in terms of bunker play? Where does that go in terms of shots where there's more variety, when you've got more options to play shots? Where does it go in terms of putting? Like, would you say that people have a putting blueprint? Would you say, like, where do you stretch that in terms of the rest of the game, away from full swing?
I mean, those who see me in person probably have seen me at some point for chipping or some sort of short game session. That's kind of the main stuff I do in person. So I will always put them in a blueprint. I will always put them, so for a standard 15-yard chip shot, you'll have a blueprint. You'll have an understanding of what to do. But like you say, there's so many different shots. I think you almost have like a variety of blueprints. You have a variety of understanding of different shots, and it's just learning, if you do something with the club, what's it going to do in the ground? What's it going to do to the ball? Is it going to go higher? Is it going to go lower? Just learning those things. And yeah, you there's just a lot more to learn, but a lot of that comes from experimenting. And to be honest with you, with short game and being I like to think a good short game coach myself, they got a lot of it's understanding. People just don't understand, how to chip and what actually you're supposed to do. And things like using the bounce and maybe not using the bounce. Yeah, those ideas people have wrong in their head, which I could go on for a very long time. But yeah, it's interesting, and obviously you got, there's just so many avenues you can go down with that, but finding what's correct for the person is essential. Again, it will always be the same in every area. To be honest, it's the same as every area in sport. It's not even just golf, right? It's everyone's specific in different areas, and they sort of all have their own ways of doing things. You have to learn. If you want to be great, you have to do it your own way and do it well.
Love it. Great way to end today, I think. And you've definitely sparked my interest to talk about short game next week. So maybe we
there we go. Yes.
put that on the agenda for next week.
Sweet.
As the season's coming near, we've got to start thinking about it now. Good. Guys, any last points on Blueprint before we close off today?
Learn it. Go.
Yeah, just take time. Take time.
Mm-hmm. And we are available if you need us. We are available.
Exactly that. If you want to discover your personal blueprint and understand how to play your best golf for you, then drop us a message. So I'll put some links below. If you're interested, drop us a message and you'll be able to chat with either Jack or Sam on seeing if our coaching is the right option for you. Also, have a look at the Macro Golf Performance Audit. Again, I'll put a link to that below. That's where you can start answering some questions. And it might give you a bit of an idea on your blueprint as well. It might give you some ideas on where your game is currently at its strongest, at its weakest, any areas you might be able to identify that are your current blind spots to scoring. It will give you a little bit of an insight to that. We'll have a personalised report there for you. It's completely free. It takes around 3 minutes to complete. And we'll put the link below here. And thank you for listening for today. If you enjoyed this, it really, really helps us out if you share this with someone that you think would also enjoy it. So drop this in your group chat, send it to some friends, and share this message, because we're going to be talking a lot about this this year, and we want to try to spread this word as much as possible. It's something we really believe in. We really believe it's going to help a lot of golfers, and we really appreciate any sharing of this content.
Indeed.
Thank you very much. Guys, I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.